All right, we're talking about angle relationships. We just did a whole bunch of notes. We got some new vocab words: vertical, adjacent, linear, complementary, supplementary. We're going to see how it shows up in an actual math question, okay? Find the missing measures in each figure and keep the angle relationships in mind. So, x is a variable, which is basically just a missing number. So we're just trying to figure this out. The first three, very, very basic. We can use Desmos, but sometimes we might even be able to do them in our head, okay? For number one, how would you classify 112 and how it relates to the x here, okay? Give me a vocab word that we just learned. I would agree, right? This looks like vertical angles to me, all right? And what I see on the thing we just did, vertical angles, two angles across from each other, they are always congruent. Right? And congruent means same size, just different places. So what do we think x is going to be equal here? X equals 112. It is always congruent. There you go. That's a 10-second question. All you need to know is vertical angle. Let's look at number two. Number two, you don't even need to know the vocab words. You could have been able to figure this out yesterday. We have three rays here. The big angle is getting a 90-degree mark in the corner. We know 68 is this portion. This is more of a question about the angle addition postulate, right? The two smalls added together equal the big. So I would say, let's pick a vocab word for these. What do you think? I'm going to go with complementary, okay? Complementary is definitely kind of the most interesting way that these relate to each other. Adjacent, most of these questions are going to deal with adjacent angles. So adjacent doesn't really tell me a whole bunch, but complementary tells me something interesting, right? I've got my C, O, and then boop, turn it into a 90. Complementary tells me that they add up to make 90. And so that tells me that x plus 68 equals 90. If you add up to make 90, then you add up to make 90, right? We can do it that fast. Let's get to Desmos. And, you know, again, Desmos is saving us so much work this year. I don't see the answer. Scroll around, look for it. I see it, 22. Okay, again, maybe you could even have done this in your own head here. X is equal to 22. We good about number two? All right, number three. How would you classify how these angles relate to each other? What is their relationship? I agree with you. This is supplementary, and we could even be extra fancy. Okay? They're not only supplementary, which, again, you can do a little bit of fancy, turning it into a 180 if you want. Okay, they're going to add up to 180. If you want it to be a little bit more clear, these are also considered to be a linear pair. Okay, because not only are they supplementary, but they're attached to each other, right? They are making a straight line, so they're linear, right? That's not even necessarily the hardest part either. Same as number two. What is our little short equation going to be for number three? X plus 124 equals 180. Who can calculate that for me? What do you say? I agree with you, 56. Easy, clean. We're not really sweating all that. Not too bad. All right. Number four is going to ask us to find out what is X, what is Y, what is Z. This is a very common type of question. I'll tell you, you'll see one like this on the review. You'll see one like this on the test. This is like just the basics of geometry and how these angles work together. So, Which of these do you feel confident going for first, X, Y, or Z? I think one of them is really easy to find. I think Y is really easy to find. Y, what's the value of Y? 43. And I would say that Y is a vertical relationship with the 43, right? We're across, we're opposite, two straight lines, easy. Now, X and Z, how can we find the X and the Z? Yep. We can think about these like supplementary lines. They're adding together with the 43 to make 180. So what are they, right? We can do X plus 43 equals 180, which basically means subtract 43 from 180, which is going to be 137. And so if we know that 43 is vertically across from 43, and then we know that 137 is the X value, what is the Z value going to be? Yeah, it's also going to be 137. All right, number 5 has a bit more challenge for sure, okay? Number 5 requires a little bit of being clever and figuring it out. So, we have 2 angles already given to us. I know 72 is one, but what is the other angle that's given to us? What do you say? Yes, we know that this piece is worth 90, okay? And since we know that that piece is worth 90, we're able to piece some other stuff together. I think that 2 of them, are equally as easy to go for first. I think one of them, we need to save for last. X, Y, Z. Who's got an idea? Where are we heading? Okay, if we try for the Z looks like it's crammed between the 90 and the 72. And I'm thinking that this is a straight line. So all of these should make 180. Or even easier, if this is a right angle, then that means that these 2 things should make 90. That's 72 and Z should add together because they're complementary. So I would go for Z first. I think that's a good idea. I think that Z plus 72 equals 90. Sorry, my Z's are kind of ugly, but if I don't put the slash through them, then they just look like 2s. Anybody know what Z would be then? 18. Sure, 18 degrees. You're 100% right. Nice job. 18. At this point, we could solve for either X or Y. I think one of them is still easier than the other one for now. Who has an idea where you want to go next? Sure. If we go for Y, that's this one up here. We're going to want to be looking for vertical angles, complementary angles, supplementary angles. So how are we going to figure out what Y is? Sure, 72. And why do we know that Y is going to be 72? Because it's vertical, right? Because we have this is across from this. And I can even use those nice little curves in my corner to remind myself that they're matching up. So I'm going to have 72 here. Now there's another way we could have even figured out 72. We could have thought about this like it was supplementary. We could have said that all 3 of these need to add up to make 180, right? And so 18 plus 90, that's 108. And Y is all the leftover stuff, which is going to be 72. In order to make it 180, 72. There it is. Lastly, X. There you go, 108. I just kind of walked you through it a little bit. X is across from the 90 and the 18, which we can think about 108, but probably the easiest way to think about it is supplementary with the 72. What's that? Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. Here, take this back. Gotcha. All right. Those questions, we get all the pictures. We got 6, 7, 8, 9, all words. Okay, like we can try to figure this out. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. Let's draw a picture. Line, line. The one thing that's a little tricky is we kind of have the habit of drawing everything as right angles. You kind of got to break that habit of drawing everything as a right angle, because if everything's a right angle, then it's a very easy question here. It says 1 and 2 are vertical angles, and the measure of angle 2 is 105. So if 2 is going to be 105, 2 is going to be obtuse. I'll put my 2 on kind of the wider side. And if 1 is going to be vertical with 2, is it going to go in spot A, B, or C? B. Nice call. It's going to go in spot B. Angle 2 is 105 degrees. How are we going to figure out angle 1? 105 degrees. Yeah. Simple, simple question, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Think about your verticals, which means they're the same. Think about your complementary, which means they add to make 90. Think about your supplementary, which means they add to make 180. All right, A and B are complementary angles. We will get this wrong if we confuse 90s and 180s. Like, we're going to get it wrong, so be careful. Complementary, is that 90 or is that 180? Complementary is 90, right? Draw your little line here. Ooh, looks like a 90. So that means angle, sure, I'll write the B first, I guess. Angle B plus angle A equals 90. And so if we figure this out, right? Angle A, which is 42, we can subtract that 42 to the other side. Angle B is going to be equal to, nice job, 48. That's our 90 minus 42. Again, not a super long question, not one that's really kind of blowing our mind. Let's just skip 8. Like, this is taking forever. Let's just do 9. 1 and 2 form a linear pair. That's a vocab word we haven't used a whole lot. What does a linear pair mean? Perfect. That is the exact definition. It means they're adjacent and supplementary. A good start to drawing a linear pair is to draw a line, right? If it's a linear pair, then draw a line. All right. Typically, we just kind of draw, one more kickstand out there. These two, easy as that, that's a linear pair. Okay? If the measure of angle 1 is 113, I guess that means I'll put 1 on the obtuse side. Find the measure of angle 2. I'll leave it up to you guys. Anybody figure out angle? Welcome back. Oops. Not sure how you managed to beat him back. I appreciate that, Jace. I said, not sure how you managed to beat them back. I was impressed at how slow they were. Did anybody find the measure of angle 2? I hear you. A measure of angle 2, can even put a little M there, is going to be 67. All right. We're taking our time. I can't stress enough, vocab is important. If you get on the test and it says linear pair and you don't know what that looks like, you're going to be in trouble. I guess I should now use my copy with the things here. All right, now, using algebra, we got Desmos, okay? So I don't expect this to be rocket science even, okay? We're going to go for 4 more minutes, then we're done with the notes, okay? Looking at these questions, we've done these with angles already. We've done these with lines already. Now we've just got to add in a little bit more vocab. Complementary, vertical, supplementary, linear angles, blah, blah, blah. We got this, okay? 10. The measure of angle PQT. PQT is going to be this top part up here. I'll put this up here, 3x plus 47, okay? And the measure of angle SQR is going to be 6x minus 25. Which one is SQR? Left, right, bottom? Nice call. If I was going to give you one tip to getting these questions right, it is the simplest tip ever. Write the measurements within the spots they're supposed to be, okay? Some of us will try to not write anything down and then in our head try to memorize which angles these are. Just write them down, okay? Now that we have them written down, are these going to be supplementary, complementary? Are these going to be vertical angles? What are we thinking? They look vertical to me, right? They look nice and opposite each other. They look nice and across from each other. And if these two are vertical angles, how do they relate to each other? Like, what are the numbers going to be? Their measurements are going to be the same, right? If you're vertical angles, the measurements are going to be the same. Welcome back. So, if these measurements are going to be the same, how can we set up an equation that shows that these two things are the same? You write one, you write the other, and you put an equal sign in the middle. And there you go. Now we got two angles that are equal to each other. We can, just imagine those poor kids back in the old days, like Mr. Collier, who had to solve all this and move both sides. Oh, we're done. 24. All right. Now, I kind of may have tricked you a little bit here because I said, oh, we're done. But we talked about how issues on the test with reading directions, we are not done. 24 is not the angle. 24 is the x value. Now, does it matter whether I plug this 24 into the 3x minus 47 or the 6x minus 25? They're the same thing, right? So who cares, right? If I plug the 24 over here, it should give me a number. If I pour 24 over here, it should give me the same exact number. So it really doesn't matter, okay? I'll just plug it in. I guess we'll do what the question says, but again, it doesn't matter. SQR is the bottom shape. And so if I plug it into the bottom, 6 parentheses 24 minus 25, I'm getting 119. Measure of angle SQR equals, let me just make sure I remember that right, 119. Let's talk about angles that don't make any sense. If we get that the measure of angle SQR is 312, does that sound right? No. If we get that the measure of angle SQR is -8, is that right? No. So X could be negative, but the measure of the angle better not be. Okay? All right, let's do one more question, then we'll have lunch. All right, so here we go. It says if AB upside down T, CD, what on earth does that upside down T mean? Ooh.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Does anybody remember this upside down T? Not exactly. It kind of means bicycle. Upside down T means perpendicular. Okay? Remember, perpendicular basically is just going to let you know that we got right angles. Okay? So this whole thing right here is a very sneaky way. It's basically just a square in the corner. Right? It's saying AB, which is a straight line, CD has been perpendicularly bisected. Sure, there's a 90-degree angle there. Awesome. It says the measure of angle DCE is 7x plus 2. In here, let's go, 7x plus 2. And the measure of angle ECB is x plus 8. Again, just put them in there. That's the best tips I could give you. Now, we want to come up with an equation. Just like tell yourself, how can I make an equation with an equal sign by adding things up or subtracting things? Maybe I need a 90, maybe I need a 180. How can I make an equation with this much information? Okay, so I have heard a couple different answers. I did hear at least one that was correct. We're not gonna set it up like this, because if we're gonna set it up like this, these two things need to be equal. Do we have any clues that these two pieces are gonna be equal? We do not. They don't even look equal in the picture, which doesn't always matter, but these do not look the same. Instead, we're gonna use our knowledge that if this whole side is 90, then this whole side needs to be 90. And so we're going to set it up where we can add these two things up. 7x plus 2, x plus 8. Add them up, you get 90. We go to Desmos, and then we're done with the notes. 7x plus 2 plus x plus 8 equals 90. We could call these... Sure. X equals 10. It's not done yet. We need the measure of the angle DCE. It is picky now because DCE is not the same as ECB. DCE is the top. So we're going with 7 times 10 plus 2. You can do that in your head. Measure of angle DCE is equal to 72. Since these add up to make 90, we could call them complementary. Complementary is the word. All right, now, please stay by your seat till the bell dismisses us. The very next one is ours.